So first, I'll introduce Peden with ADP. Mac has had a distinguished career with ADP in both sales and operations since joining ADP as a district manager in 1975. In July of 2011, Mac joined the corporate finance leadership. Mac works with ADP's corporate finance, corporate real estate, IT, and HR teams to identify the best use of workspace for associates throughout ADP, as he concurrently leads the corporate real estate function. Prior to his current role, Mac served as Senior Vice President of National Account Services Field Services. Prior to joining NAS in 2002, Mac spent 27 ADP years in senior operational management, sales, and sales management roles in various other ADP units. Mac is a Georgia native living in the Atlanta area his entire career. He is a graduate of Georgia Tech and a U.S. Army veteran. All right, and we'll let Matt get started and share information from his program. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Pleased to be with you today. A long time. I think it's time to stop. I'm actually retiring next month. So I was thinking the other day, since I'll be retiring, I have the new center of my world is my granddaughter, who's 3 years old, and my son and wife and granddaughter live in Chandler Park. And I'm sure you've all heard the news flash early in the morning where it's going to be a bad day. Old people, little children should not be out in the afternoon. Well, it's me and my granddaughter. So I think it's time to clean up the air in Atlanta so that we can go out anytime and enjoy our beautiful city and all the great things that go on. And for the last 35 years, I thought the most important thing in the world was getting a paycheck. Everybody has to get paid, so that must be what everybody should be focused on. And then I realized, well, if you don't have good air, you check that you can do it. So actually, I'm looking more important than helping clean up our air. ADP has had another comment before I get this. As Erin said, I've spent most of my career, 95%, in leading sales and operations in Atlanta. And the last year I've been temporarily filling in to find a permanent place for our corporate real estate fund. So I've really focused on real estate the last year, but part of our real estate function, part of what we're doing is maybe what you've seen in your companies is, kind of getting a little fuzzy as to what real estate is when a lot of people are not in a building. Who's responsible for all these people that are working at home and the equipment and all that stuff? But we've had a concentrated effort at ADP to, we call it home tour. So you've seen some of the presentation, we call it home tour. But so not only in Atlanta have I been focused on clean air and teleworking, I was got involved, in the early 90s in some of the first 20 new days and things that we had in the 24%. So now on a national basis, we're looking at how to get more and more people to do home tour and teleworking here. In fact, it probably is happening in your companies. We actually started, what teleworking was in the late 80s when we had key associates that said, I'm moving to Florida, I'm moving to Minneapolis. Oh no, we can't leave, I need you. So, could you still work? And the early days, they actually moved to Minneapolis or to California, and they would drive to the nearest office and log into the system because there was no internet, there was no other way to get in. But that was kind of our first telework. And then as technology improved, they obviously could live at home and work at home. So that's what got us started. We wanted to retain up to people. That's what telework was. Today in Atlanta, we have, I got the active 637, I think, associates that telework. And when we say telework, we mean basically every day. So part of our teleworking initiative is across the country is also real estate. We think we can reduce our real estate footprint 20 to 30% over the coming years by having people work at home. And at ADP, that's $60 million. So people get excited about that kind of annual savings. And this public sector advance with us, and everybody is private. So you motive is profit first, and we all like to think we're, all great corporate citizens, but at the end of the day, at least in my country, it's always been, it's a stockholder with food. But this is one of the greatest programs that, almost program I know, where everybody wins, right? You save your 40s, no, you're going to get better money for education. So the objectives of home short ADP, and Ellen said it very well. I told her she hit all the things to do. So what she said, everything she said applies to ADP. We've had the same questions, we've had the same surveys, and we've had the same results. But flexible work arrangements, you ask most people, would you rather have more money or more time? A lot of people want more time. Everybody likes more money, but when it really comes down to it, I want more flexible time, more time with my family, I want flexibility. And the teleworking gives that to you. I read a statistic not long ago that when you work in an office environment, at 38 hours a week, you start running into the family work-life balance after you work 130 hours. If you work at home, the number is 57 hours. If you think about that, it makes sense, because at home, you can leave in the middle of the day if you have to, right? You can meet the air conditioner repairman and still do the work while he's downstairs fixing the air conditioner. All those things, makes you somewhat more flexible. I've been a teleworker for the last probably 7 or 8 years, and I don't have to today, but I do it because it's just convenient and productive. I started because 400, you might think 400 northbound, which is where I went every day, before they increased the lanes, used to back up almost as bad as 400 south. So I'd sit there for 45 minutes trying to go 15 miles up 400. So I sat at home for 3 hours and work, and then went to work in 15 minutes. And again, if you do any teleworking or working at home, it's just, you know what the productivity is. Retain and attract talent. Our teleworking homeshore associates retention is better than the general population. And people like to work for a company where they have the options for flexibility. And as I mentioned earlier, optimize ADP facilities. If our people work at home all the time, they don't need people, they don't need space. If 20 people working at home all the time, you look at them. The social benefits are, again, we talked about it pretty obvious: flexibility, work-life, reduce commute time, expenses, increase ability to focus and concentration. And then to benefits to ADP, obviously we got more engaged, more productive people. One of the things that the biggest pushbacks, or one of the biggest pushbacks you'll get from your organization, your managers, is that productivity, right? I can't see them on the work. So one of the key things to being successful is you've got to have a way, obviously, to measure that productivity. In the call center environment, even when people are home, just like they're in the center, you measure the calls, you measure all the ATV, the weather, and all those kind of things in the call centers. If they're in, there's got to be a way to measure productivity. So I would say it's strong, big amount. Again, we keep good people, we keep them a long time. Nobody ever leaves. If you're home and you go look for another job and they say, well, you got to come to the office and work for this company. I don't want to do that. I'm working at home. I want to stay at home. So you just have a much better team. And as I said, optimize our facility. And the environment, which is one of the main reasons we're here. But miles driven, less traffic congestion, more green space. I did the math on this the other day. 500 teleworkers associates for the creator. Those 500 people not working, we have a 2-acre park. So kind of the best practices. You know, you got to develop standards. You know, you can't just say we're going to have a telework. You know, that's the biggest, one of the biggest things. Why you go and you can't. You know, you got to have those standards about who can and who can't. Develop engineers training, management training, which Clean Air offers, so you know how to manage the process, evaluate your stuff, some people are good fit, know how you measure productivity, and you know, one of the things that, and we've run into that some too, you're out of sight, out of mind. You know, if they don't ever see me, they'll ever get promoted, they'll forget who I am. You know, we have a ratio of, and it varies, but generally it's 4 to 1. For every 4 people that go home, we keep we call it a bench or hoteling queue in an office so they can come back in, you know, whenever they need to. Once a week, once a month, once a quarter, but you do want your people to come back in from time to time because they will get, you know, lose touch with your corporate, you know, culture and the people, so you want to come back. So,
Thank you. Next we have Michelle Fox Higgins with ista North America. Michelle is originally from LA and Scottsdale. She holds a degree in international communication from Arizona State University. She worked at Intel for 9 years and has worked at ista since 2009, where she is a project manager and the sustainability delegate for North America. And she received her certificate in sustainability from Georgia Southern University in March of this year. And Michelle?
Thanks for having me and pleased to be here. As Erin said, I work for ista North America. We're a German-owned company, and our headquarters in North America are based in Alpharetta. We have approximately 250 employees. We recently sold off one of our divisions to Yardi, and so we reduced our headcount by about half. So this is just a little bit about what we do. We are basically a BPO, or a business process outsourcing company. We do back office type work, or if you go to log into your on your computer to pay your utility bill, it's basically in Texas, you will be looking at an ista created bill. So we own the IP around that. It's called IstaNet. So we have a big presence in Texas. We also have a Houston office. And we actually have the word sustainability in our mission statement. So this is just a little bit about me, but we already went through that. So I do live up in Alpharetta, so I only commute 6 minutes, or 6 miles, excuse me, so it's not so bad. But I do enjoy my 1 day a week teleworking because get a lot done, work-life balance. I have 3 children to go home. So we formed a telework steering committee in 2011. It took quite a long time for our company to adopt a telework policy. We are actually still in the pilot phase, which ends at the end of this month. I have been pushing this for a long time. I can't tell you how frustrating it was. Again, we are a German-owned company, so we have to get direction from Germany, and our leadership was German. I won't say anything more about that, except they're wonderful people, but they're definitely rigid. We developed a steering committee. We have representatives from all sorts of operations fields in our company. We have our CEO and our CFO, me as a project manager managing the project and also driving the project. And then we have a couple people from the business. So we have a security person as well that talks about IT security and all that. So we did it for lots of reasons, but I would say the main driver for our company was retention. We have, I would say, over 40% attrition since last year. We lost quite a bit of people, and that does not include the selling of our company, Yardi. So we are trying to attract and retain very qualified IT professionals. IT people really go where the money is, but they also go where they can telework. So that was an overall general complaint when they left, is that I'm going to a company that I can have a better work-life balance. I live in Atlanta, I'm driving to Alpharetta, whatever. So we have been able to stop the bleeding, if you will, and attract and retain better employees. So our productivity was probably the biggest issue that management had to overcome. So we really pushed data on productivity during our pilot. And again, we're still in the pilot, but we're at the end, and we just went through our surveys and management surveys and employee surveys. We did have an overall result of productivity not going down. So mostly staying the same, some a little bit up, but definitely not. So this is what we did. We wanted to look at the feasibility of the program. We were very concerned with the IT structure. When we had the big snow, was that January 2010? Oh gosh, yeah, you're right. That was a huge thing for me because we were all teleworking and our system did not crash. So we were worried about bandwidth and we were able to successfully telework pretty much everybody that had the ability to do it. So that was huge. I appreciate the snow. Security issues, obviously we have a lot of IT and yes, ma'am.
What percentage was that of like how many people had access? Like half? More than half?
I would say more than half.
Okay.
Most people we're an IT organization, and we have a lot of people with a lot of technical knowledge to get in. We also have a lot of people that work off hours for releases, for software deployment, so they were already doing it anyway. So the biggest concern was, will our network be able to handle it? And they did. There were no issues. So our phones were awful. We just got new ones. Yay, that was a big thing. And our culture, German culture, and also a lot of, I would say, kind of old-fashioned culture of you can't see somebody, they're not working. So we had to overcome that. And management buy-in support, that was a big thing. Really pushed for that. That was not easy. If anybody has any specific questions at the end, I'd be happy to tell you what I did. And trust, communication, productivity again, and communication. All right, so the advantages that everybody has said, including the managers that are teleworking, which we do have, and the employees, were fewer distractions, definitely. We have very few offices at ISTA. We're all in an open environment, no tube walls, office desks pushed up against each other. So in a given day, I'm disruptive 20, 30 times. So it's very hard to get anything done. When I need to do a webinar, I go home, or I go in my car, and I listen to a conference call. And seriously. Or you go in the hallway, I've even gone on another floor. So it's very hard to get something done that you have to really focus on. So I really drove that with management, that you will have fewer distractions and employees will get a lot more done, trust me. Less water cooler talk, which is fun, but again, distracting. So, and these are our numbers from June 7th to July 18th. We have 41,000 miles reduced by employees. Not just teleworking these numbers, it also includes, we have employees that I take on other forms of communication. And I've had lots of employees come up to me and tell me how much they're saving. One lady told me yesterday it's $200 a month, 1 day a week in gas. Okay, so our details of the program. We were very strict because the managers were very nervous. We are allowing our teleworkers to telework 1 to 2 days a week. Manager discretion. We have one group only teleworking 1 day a week. No consecutive days and no Mondays. We wanted our manager, our CEO actually was doing no Fridays as well, but and then we have no consecutive days. That works. So we were able to convince it otherwise. And obviously you get manager approval. You have to log your commute. You have to attend mandatory training. Both managers and the employees have to do that. And we had roundtable discussions and surveys as well throughout the pilot that they were supposed to complete, and they did. And we had, we also provide pens, which is, a piece of paper, cardstock that we fold, we put on the desk, and it has your contact number on it. And employees have to get a contact number. That was a little bit of an issue with this because not all employees have company-issued phones. But we said, if you're going to telework, we need to get in touch with you. So we did that, and then they completed the very process. And that's it.
Next, I would like to introduce Ms. Shay Willis with Assurant Specialty Property. She has been with Assurant since 2007 and within the mortgage servicing operations there. Her team services a portfolio of approximately 2 million loans for clients, including Chase Home Finance, City Mortgage, and Wells Fargo. She is responsible for ensuring her team delivers superior quality in a high production environment while adhering to federal and banking regulations. Her tenure includes experience with claims, operations, and customer care departments. Also from Assurant, we have Angelica Newsome. She is a human resources professional with over 20 years of HR experience in various industries, including telecommunications, hospitality, service, and healthcare. Her current role is HR Director for Assurant Specialty Property in Duluth. She joined Assurant in 2006 and loves the organization and what she can do there each day. In her current role, she supports the Duluth operations team, which consists of over 1,100 employees. She is responsible for helping to create a place where employees like working. She does this on a daily basis by focusing on building and supporting an environment of engagement, learning, and performance.
Good morning. Good morning. Ms. Shay is going to actually sit. Ms. Shay is one of our managers and will be able to answer questions for you if you want to know about the particular job, a job where employees actually work from home. I also have other business partners with me today I'd like to introduce. We have Dirk Buford, who's one of our operations managers in our call center. As I talk about Assurant Specialty Property today in our Duluth Center, we do not currently have customer service working from home, but we will in the very near future. We also have Rashonda Foy, who's one of our directors in our operations loss drafts department. We have Jack Petty, who is one of our analysts, who I must give a shout out to Jack, who worked very hard over the last 6 months deploying approximately 100 employees out of our Duluth site, but also our other locations in Springfield, Ohio, and Florence, South Carolina. So with that, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about our program. I'm in HR, not IT. There we go. Okay, thank you, Erin. This is a lot of words on the slide. Just an overview of our teleworking program. We actually started teleworking probably right when I joined Assurant in 2006. And it was the same focus. We wanted to make sure that we can provide an environment where employees can have flexibility. Everything that the speaker said today about flexibility. Our office is in Duluth, off of 85. The majority of our employees at our Duluth location commute in from the south, so they're actually coming 85, and we all know what the traffic can be like there. We were also very engaged in trying to keep our employees, so retention was a big reason why we moved to a teleworker program. And we also wanted to make sure that our customers get the best service. And with less distractions throughout your day, you can actually focus. And what we were focusing on was less errors. Benefits, plenty for the employee as well as for our business. Our Duluth location in 2006, we were in a one-story building. We had at that time probably 550 employees. We really only had space for about 450 employees. So we were squeezed into a very small location. We had what we called telephone booths, where were little mini desks throughout the building. And I'll be honest, when I started with the company, my biggest concern was, is Gwinnett County going to come in and shut us down? Because it really was not a safe environment at the time. So we started to push, what can we do? Can we do teleworking and what jobs? And then the benefits was really important for our business leaders as well. Gas may not have been that expensive, as expensive that time, but still it's reduced to household expenses, gas, maintenance on your car, dry cleaning. Zero commute time, because again, traffic may be a little bit better today than it was back then, but still, it was for most of our employees, at least a 15-minute commute, one way. We wanted employees to have more time and flexibility with their families. There's a really good commercial out there, and I haven't seen it in the last week, but it's the one where the little boy is waiting for his mom to get home, and he's trying to get to baseball practice. And he and his friend are sitting on the stoop, and the friend says, "Well, where's your mom?" And the little boy says, "Well, she's probably in traffic." So again, with the teleworker program, employees can end their day, just say it's 5 or 6 o'clock, and still be able to get their children to baseball practice or cheerleading or soccer or whatever they play. Less distractions. We've all talked about that. Even in my role, I'm probably getting interrupted at least 30 times per day. And when you think about that, you think about the commute time, really, as far as productivity, I probably could have gotten a little bit more done, or a lot more done, if I was going to work from home. And then the engagement. Our organization is really focused on engagement, and when we've looked at talk to our employees, this is one way that really keeps them engaged. For benefits for our business, I described our site. Today we do have space for about 1,000. We have 1,100 people there, and in some of our other locations, they're completely out of space. So when you talk about real estate, again, do we really want to invest more money in real estate, or do we really want to save money in real estate and just do with the space that we have? So that was a huge win for us at Assurant. Access to a broader talent pool. An example of that is one of our locations in Springfield, Ohio. They're currently recruiting employees out of the Atlanta market to support them in this Springfield location. So again, your talent pool is much wider. Increased flexibility for customers' needs. I remember January of 2011 very clearly. Our business pretty much shut down totally for 3 days. We have, again, employees that have children, that have responsibilities, that commute in from 50-minute commute. We were really hurting, and our customers and our clients were not happy. At the time, we probably had less than 100 teleworkers, but it was a huge impact to our business. So we built our teleworker program into our BCP plan, and again, our goal is to continue to increase teleworking. So if we have another January 2011, we will definitely be more prepared. It also reduces absenteeism. You have employees that may get up in the morning, they're not feeling well. It's much easier just to call out than to go sit in the traffic and not know if you're going to really be good for the rest of the day. But if you're at home teleworking, you may not feel good, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to still work. And then again, for the business productivity, again, it's just a win-win. The expectations from our employees and the teleworker, they must have a designated workspace at home. Shouldn't be their kitchen table, it shouldn't be on the coffee table in the den where everyone goes to watch the football game. It should be a space in their home that they can actually close off for their equipment. The employees are responsible for the office equipment, so if they don't have a desk and a ergonomically correct type chair at home, that is something that they are responsible for. The workspace must be adequately designed to protect information. So again, having a computer on the coffee table where everyone goes to watch the football game is not a place where they should telework. Internet service with adequate speed. This was a big one for us as we built as we sent the additional employees home throughout 2012. They must pay for their internet service, but I believe the slide earlier showed you it's less monthly than a gallon of gas, a tank of gas. So they are required to make sure and ensure before they go home that they have adequate internet speed. And then we provide them with the computer. And in most of our jobs that are non-exempt positions, they don't have a printer. But in some positions, like an analyst position, they may also need a printer in that job. The criteria. We have to make sure that we select candidates that are dependable. So they're going to be home working, and they're not going to be home and they're, doing laundry and cleaning and vacuuming when they're really supposed to be working. They must be self-motivated. And in talking to employees, some have to have that day-to-day interaction. So they may not be the best candidate for work from home, but self-motivation is critical. They must be independent. They must be able to troubleshoot when it comes to their system or the computer. And if not, they must be proactive in making that phone call to the help desk to make sure there's limited downtime throughout their day. They must have effective management skills. Because again, you can get easily distracted at home. You know, you can actually be doing laundry and forget you're supposed to be working. So you have to make sure that they have effective management skills. And it also must be employees who have demonstrated adequate protection of security. And in our business today, we are at our location required to lock up confidential information. They're not allowed to keep their computer screens up when they leave their desk. So again, as we're thinking about the right employees to go home, it must be employees who have already demonstrated the discipline to do that. The job must be a job that's portable, must be a job that can be done at home without any, day-to-day, face-to-face contact. It must be jobs that you can actually know that the work is getting done. Now, we do have a variety of jobs that work from home. Some examples are jobs that the work is actually in the queue. And Michelle will be able to, if you have questions around those types of jobs, give you an example. So the work goes into a queue, the employee logs in, the work is there, they're able to work without any interruptions. Jobs like analysts, our client services. We have, even in HR, the HR generalist 1 day a week. Their managers in different departments do 1 day a week as well. And then again, for the job, we just have to make sure that we ensure confidentiality of the data. Now, we really enhanced our teleworker program over the last 2 years. When I started in 2006, again, we had a program, but we got the support from our CEO and our senior leaders, all of that level and senior leaders. This became a focus for them at that level, which made it much easier for us to implement. And when you talk about saving $6 million a year, it doesn't really take much more than that to get the buy-in from your CEO. And then when you can also demonstrate that it has been successful in the small numbers that we started with, again, it doesn't take much to get their buy-in. We provided a teleworker we updated our teleworker policy and agreement. We actually provided a toolkit for managers and employees. And all the toolkit is a document that kind of explains what is teleworking. Because we have partial teleworkers and we have 100%. The majority of our employees telework 100% of the time, but we do have employees who may come in the office 2 or 3 days a week. We are looking into having some type of hoteling in the future, but right now we still have some space issues, so we're not there yet. But those are some of the things that we're working on. We are also working on an online process to make it easier for managers to submit the request, to order the equipment, and get everything started without all of the paper pushing that we do today. We're working on putting that process online. We also have a manager selection assessment tool, and again, that's just a guide for managers as you're identifying employees who would be good teleworkers, and just ask you some key questions for you to think about. Is this person dependable? When they're in the office, are they getting their work done? Is it someone who is proactive with making sure that they're meeting their assignments or meeting their deadlines? There's a home workstation set up because, again, we want to make sure just as they do in the office, have a desk. You're going to be sitting there for 8 hours. It should be ergonomically correct. So again, we provide a guide for the manager and for the employee. And then there's also a safety guide. Because as all of you know who currently have programs, if the employee is injured in the workspace at home, it is covered under workers' comp. And these are just some numbers. I didn't calculate numbers as far as miles and pollution and all of that, so I was really impressed to see that. I'll have to go back and try to tackle that. But from 2009 in Duluth, we had approximately 30 employees that worked from home. 2010, it grew a little bit. When we look at 2011, we had less than 100, and again, that was a huge impact during that ice storm. But today, we are a little over 259 employees, and that's 20% of our population. And that number is going to grow even more. So we're excited about that. The feedback from the employees is they're loving it. A lot of them are saying that now they actually have time to make a healthy breakfast before the kids go to the school bus. One of the things that I didn't touch on is child care, independent care. So our teleworkers is expected to have the same arrangements that they would have if they were in the office. The benefit for someone who has school-age children who are big enough to come home on the bus, get off, go in the kitchen, have a snack and start their homework without disturbing mommy or daddy, that is the ideal situation. But it is not and should not be used for you to have a daycare or elder care at your home while you're working. As I mentioned earlier, our customer service position one day in the near future will test teleworking, and we're really excited about that because in our Duluth facility, probably 550 employees there, so half of our population is our call center. So we're really excited about that. And again, a critical piece with any job going to work from home is it really needs to be the right candidate. Now, as in my bio, I talked about supporting an environment of engagement, learning, and performance. We really focus on that at Assurant Specialty Property, and we have seen results where our teleworking program does support that. We have had few cases where we have to bring people back in, and most of those cases were either the performance went down because they're expected to stay the same or go higher, and really without 30 interruptions during the day, there should be no reason why the productivity doesn't increase. And again, as far as turnover, these employees, I recently talked to a teleworker in the focus group, and she's been teleworking for over 4 years now. So again, it just really supports our philosophy behind engagement, learning, and performance. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angelica, and thank you very much to all of our panelists. It was so wonderful that we could have a diverse group of companies, and we have, a very mature telework program, a new telework program, and then a telework program that's been around for several years and it's still growing. So, questions now. Anyone have any questions? Yes.
I was just going to ask for Assurant, you have not sent your customer care folks to work on or telework. Sort of what are the things that needed to occur? I know you don't think it's going to soon. What is it that needs to occur for those folks and what they do to be able to go to work in that work product?
Well, it has to do with technology, and I'll let Jack Peden from our group answer as far as the voice and where we are with that.
We're currently, part of the reason we were able to increase to double our teleworkers in our site this year is because we rolled out a new system based on the workspace, so we used to do on Citrix. Windows 7, concurrently we're rolling out voice over IP for customer care, which is a requirement for the system. So once we get VoIP rolled out, we can roll it out.
I believe two of the panelists have at least a few full-time teleworkers, and I was interested in hearing more about some of the things that you do to ensure that those employees are still connected, even though they're full-time teleworkers.
Well, for sure, what we do to make sure they're connected, they do have the option to come in for team meetings. So when we do have team meetings or huddles, they do come in for those as well. And we also utilize same time. So we'll continue to reach out to those associates to make sure that they still are on the manager's radar. So we'll still speak to them every morning to make sure, that we still have that personal connection. So whatever we do for the associates that are in-house, we do the same thing for the associates that work from home as well.
Oh, actually, we do the same thing. We bring them into training on a periodic basis to do things on the roll. We try to make sure they come into the office at the same time. One coffee that they have with the same kind of coffee and remotely. So it is important that they connect.
So in addition to staying meantime, what are some other technology tools that you have found particularly useful with teleworkers? Skype? Any others? And I'm sure some of these are tools that you used within the office before they were even teleworkers, but they may enhance the teleworking experience as well.
Live meetings, lots of
Really for all the panelists, how do you manage data security? Not only that's with them accessing the system, but what's viewed on their screen. We work for clients that require us to keep information confidential, and I know in ADP you have the same proprietary information. So how do you manage that with so many associates in teleworking?
We got I'm sure there's more detail than I know, but we've got timeout on the screen. We've got proprietary security on the network and so I can give you more detail if you want.
I did have another question. Did you have to get your client's permission or buy-in into having teleworkers work with their information?
Was there, before teleworking, was there an option to do flexible hours as far as like off, or is that part of the sort of telework now, or part of the commuting options where you don't come in at 9, you come in at 10, or you come in at 7, you leave at 3? Is that part of the policy as well?
Not in our case. We do have two definitions. We have a home shore person, which is home full-time, and they don't have it on the community. We also have what we call commuter, which has to share their community space in the office with someone else. So they'll work 2 days at home, 3 for one thing, those opportunities. As far as flexible working, it's really up to the manager and the department level to allow that type of flexible working. We also have 4-day people in certain areas that work nowadays.
It's separate. It's a whole separate policy.
It's a whole separate policy. It really hasn't been institutionalized throughout the time. It's more regional.
Gotcha.
And I can tell you,
I was going to say, we don't have we do have almost 24 hours for the department. We try to make it more.
And we have the same at Assurant, alternate schedule. It's not part of our teleworker program. With our teleworker program, it's either partial teleworker, which is anything less than 5 days a week, and then 100% teleworker. But depending on the manager and the department and the business, they do offer flex schedules, some do 410. Some have flexibility where as long as you're there by 9 a.m., you're not late, which again gives a little more flexibility with people who are traveling and having to deal with the commute.
And with that sort of flexible hours or just the logging, do you have to sort of say when you're taking that day? If it's partial telecommuting, do you have to schedule that day as far as like if you've got a department and you've got 15 people taking all the same day, how does that work? Do you have to schedule the telework days?
Yes.
In
so
advance?
For example, in a department, you may have some that work from home on Tuesdays. You have some that you work from home on Wednesdays. Even in one of our departments, the managers there rotate on teleworking, and they take a day, either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Predetermined?
Yes. So they can't wake up and just say, oh, traffic's back today, so I'm going to work from home.
Right.
So that's something that, and they have to set the expectation up front. Based on the volume of work, we like to know ahead of time if they're going to work from home.
because we've had that discussion, especially in customer service. Customer service has to be on shifts when there can't be no less than, I think, 13 people actually in the office logged in.
I'd like to hear some from ista and ADP, kind of sure I already covered it, but how you expect teleworkers to pay for their own cell phone minutes, laptops, ergo chairs, just the basic setup.
I was watching the other day. I like doing this policy today. When we first go out, I'm kind of while I'm on focus. When we first came up with this, we suggested at one point that maybe the people that telework got more pay. Because when you, that's reaction. Because when you think about it, when you turn the clock, the money that they save is huge, right? But we took the other approach. We basically get no less pay. If you ask for an ergonomic chair, we require you to have space like everybody else, but we will buy a chair. We do pay for the DSL line.
Oh, you do?
Yes, we do. Pay for a phone line. The assumption is you don't have to have a phone line, you don't have to have DSL. Yes, you do. So by us asking you what's home, you have to have that. And the other you have employees in California, you have to have an on-site inspection by an agency to make sure that the place is ergonomically satisfactory for the technical. So it's a couple $100 to have someone come out and inspect. You can't.
We do not cover any of these. Because they don't have a laptop, and they don't have a home computer with a Facebook and they have access and they have things like that. Most, a lot of our employees have laptops, so it has been an issue, but we have so many workers that work after hours. They just call their music and during the week, my computer is doing and then we don't have to do anything. We work from days to
And just to add on, the other side of that, you see it's also around $12 a year extra for a teleworker. We also, we save about $6,000 a year for the average person taking the stage, in-house IT support, etc. So then $1,200 to save $6,000. So it's still a very positive thing for the company for people to come to.
And I will say, generally speaking, most companies that offer telework on a part-time basis, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, they're not paying for internet access. Right. It is a lot more common that a company will pay for internet access if the employee is working from home on a full-time basis. But partial telework, we rarely ever see the company paying for that. I mean, let's face it, everyone already has internet access at home anyway, and the whole family is probably using it, not just that person that's teleworking. And also with equipment and that sort of thing, generally on a part-time basis, the employer is not incurring any additional expense for that employee to work from home. But on a full-time basis, I would say not all, but the majority of employers will pay for internet access and then sometimes other things.
Fair enough. I think right now, I work for Coca-Cola, and so it's just inconsistent throughout the system. And so when we opt to place people into teleworking positions, like close down a call center and make everyone work from home, we incur the cost. But when people opt into the program, then they take on the financial responsibility. But as for internet, we don't pay for internet, period, because to your point, the entire family uses it. You already have it anyway.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
And if I may, what we've done to address the phones in our new system, we don't pay for an additional phone line, but we do put a soft phone on the computer and pay for a headset.
this is an HR question, but as far as money spent on teleworking or logging hours, who handles that? Does HR handle it, and has there been pushback as you've implemented these? My biggest pushback does come from HR on who's going to log this, how productive are they, who's tracking this, and then the money you do spend, this is sort of a two-part question, the money you do spend on teleworkers, can you write it off and have that sort of pre-tax, like the $1,200 you spend, is that pre-tax towards the log your commute sort of, I think it's 132F tax code, pre-tax benefits for the
Well, to
business?
add a clarification, they log, are you talking about their payroll hours, or are you talking about their hours logging for their commute, or?
Kind of both. I've heard from sort of Clean Air that the best way is to log the commute so you can track it, and that and Clean Air Campaign can get money back to Clean Commute, and that's an HR question. And so how does HR handle that? As far as my question I get from HR is, I don't want to track it because that's more hours for me. And I say, okay, but we can write it off as a pre-tax benefit. So,
If I may address that, because you just touched on three different
okay,
things.
I might have
One is our website, logyourcommute.org, which is a website that we encourage everyone that takes any kind of clean commute to visit that website daily or at least weekly and log all of your clean commute. And we can provide your organization with reports of the type of clean commute that everyone's taking, the savings of the clean commute in regards to emissions and dollars. And you also mentioned 132F, which is separate. 132F is, you may have heard of it as commuter choice. That's the pre-tax transit and van pool savings and parking. So that's really only for transit, van pool, and parking. It's where your employees can have the cost of those things taken out of their paycheck on a pre-tax basis, which if you'd like more information about that, we can certainly help you with that after this. And I believe you also touched on $1,200 with tax savings, and there was a Georgia Telework tax credit that was offered to employers, but it is no longer available. So those were three separate things that I heard you touch on that I wanted to clarify and address. Does that make sense?
And how does HR, how do you really track it, as far as productivity and, or do you?
Well, logging their commute, our employees are responsible for doing that. The Teleworkers through the Clean Air Campaign's website. And that's really it. As far as productivity, the manager is responsible for making sure that the productivity expectations are met. And we can monitor the productivity daily as we would if they were in the office. So if they had to complete 50 visits when they were in the office, and the managers do before they go home, they will, check to make sure that they're completing them.
And just to clarify, like ADP doesn't do any pre-tax benefits, or they don't get any incentive to actually spend that $1,200 on that person. It's just out-of-pocket expense. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
One is data and finance data. It is my biggest, I guess, tool that I use to show the number of managers and things online. I can remind myself, I know how important it is, and I would say that's number one. Number two is to show, to explain that if you do a pilot, that you're not guaranteeing the program, and it doesn't work like what it's just a test. So if you're concerned about productivity, then we'll focus on that, and use the three things that we mentioned to see what it does.
before the days before attention to, I mean, you can get the right statistics in front of some managers, it's like it's a no-brainer.
Other questions?
So I'll have to ask on do they put my time in employee fees with companies or even before they go to full-time telework?
We have various lengths of time for different positions, like a profile of the worker, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 4 years. We actually have some positions that you can hire you as a teleworker your first day. It really depends on the position.
And did you do an assessment on that, on all of your roles or positions? How did you get to
It's kind of evolved over time. I think there's still work you can do. I guarantee you that places in my business, I have 35,000 U.S. associates. I guarantee you that places that are not yet that could be doing more. We've got around 6,000 fellow workers across the U.S. I think it maybe could be 12,000. So we have to
I think our 6 months might be a year. That means they can come to policy carefully. But we have several contractors, so we're not going to again, we've had trouble with these for a long time. We just haven't had an official program. But the official program, I think 6 months might be a year, and you can do full-time before they even know.
So just to note from experience, obviously, we've got a larger workforce in the north side. Here's we get not long ago. We have on most of them 20%. That's kind of our target. But if you go to a manager, especially one that's not particularly advising teleworkers, you say, look, you survey your group, how many could be teleworkers, they'll probably come back with 2%. If you go in and say, you know, you got 400 people in this space, we're going to renew the lease. Oh, well, we're going to renew for 200 people. Then I would say 50%. Maybe it's draconian, but we've done that before, kind of not aggressive, but that's what's kind of happened. And a year later, you go back and people are happy. We did some remodeling in Alpharetta. We have a team with 12 people and all. I don't want to talk. Well, if you come to the office, I can't work at home. It's not going to work well. We've got to remodel. You need to go home for a month, and then we're going to bring you back. Only 2 of them come back. So, you know, there's
And I will touch on that. Generally speaking, on average, we see most employers stay somewhere between 6 and 12 months of tenure before an employee is allowed to work from home. However, if it's an entry-level position, it may be a longer period of time before that employee is allowed to work from home. If it's a senior-level position, and part of the recruitment was to allow them to work from home, then sometimes they're able to start immediately. But it's really a case-by-case. It depends on the job function, the manager, and the employee you're hiring. Any other questions?
I was going to say, I think the best thing to say is it really should be the manager's discretion. And let's say really managing all the requirements that they have to have. There should be general guidelines, but really a manager knows their team, and a manager knows the difference and how many days and if they need to consecutive days or they can't do consecutive. They have to pick a day every week. I mean, it's different for every group. I would have general guidelines and then let the manager
that is something that we certainly recommend, that telework should always be a management prerogative. The managers need to take ownership of the program. And you know, as we have discussed today, not all managers are on board in the beginning, but it's even been touched on that usually after the program gets started, those managers tend to have a change of heart. They see, you know, the morale improved in those departments that are allowed to telework, the productivity improving, and just an overall better and more well-functioning department when they're allowed to work from home. And so a lot of managers do have a change of heart after they see it started. I know Assurant touched on absenteeism, but Matt and Michelle, have either of you noticed a reduction in absenteeism from those that are able to work from home? Right.
So I don't know if it's going to be different.
I don't have any business that can go over. It's not important to you or better to be on sick and call in.
Right.
Or you're working home, do a better hour to work.
Right. Well, nationally, we see about 2 or 3 days a year, a reduction in absenteeism by 2 to 3 days a year. Other questions that anyone has? So I know we've talked about different job functions that are allowed to work from home. Are there any job functions that when you started you did not necessarily think that those were job functions that would be conducive to telework, and you have seen them successfully teleworking now? Sort of it.
A lot of our jobs are pretty much
Right. Right. Well, you know, that's a question that we get all the time is, are the managers allowed to telework? And a lot of organizations, in the beginning, for whatever reason, feel that the managers should not telework. But if they can manage their employees while they're working from home, then they should be able to work from home and manage the employees while they're in the office or working from home. So, you know, certainly something that we encourage.
We do have a department in our Duluth location where the managers relocate 1 day a week. And what the managers have said is they get emails done, stuff that they can't get done in the office. We do use same time so they're connected to each associate every single day. You know, that's the day that they work from home. So, and again, they also, as a manager, one of the incentives was to make sure your team can run without you. So again, the advantage for you to be able to work from home that 1 day a week.
Is this the only clean commute option you offer your employees, or is it tied in with other clean commute options such as carpool, bike share, rental? Like, is there other things going on at your company?
Well, we do through the Clean Air campaign. Again, our employees are responsible for log their alternate employee work via the Clean Air campaign website. So if they're carpooling, again, they usually log their number of days that they carpool, or if they're taking public transportation, they do the same. But the responsibility is on the employee to do that.
You don't have any other official clean commute options?
No.
Okay.
I think they encourage all clean commutes, and you know, when we work with organizations, of course, we encourage you to encourage all commutes, but it really is up to the employee whether they carpool or take a van pool or ride transit or bike or walk. So that's really commute that they determine themselves if they're going to take advantage of that. And then, you know, telework and compressed work week is something that the employer has to improve and their manager has to be behind. And I know earlier you had asked a question about are employees allowed to telework and work a compressed work week. And it's, you know, once again, it's one of those things that really depends on the job function. It depends on the department. We have seen a lot of success. I know that there are a lot of state agencies that both telework and work a compressed work week. the Atlanta Municipal Court, they've had a lot of success with working a 4-day work week and teleworking. So their employees are driving in 3 days a week. They have one employee that drives all the way in from Duluth. And apparently she's an excellent employee, and they've been so happy to retain her. But, you know, really the only way they've been able to retain her is the fact that she only has to drive in 3 days a week because she teleworks 1 day a week, and then she has the 4th day off.
So your companies don't incentivize at all, like any kind of thing commute, like give a discount on MARTA passes or anything like that? You have showers?
We have, in Salt Lake City, we have an office that has public transportation. We gave everybody in Salt Lake City. So a question for a lot of people that might answer the question, so we need to make sure that everybody has what they need to go back and increase their teleworking when they leave. So if anybody not have an idea that when they leave here today, they're going to go back and have more teleworking. Because, you know, one of the things you run into on some of the questions is senior management support, and unless you all are, and I'm sure y'all are very polite and you want to ask some companies, but a lot of young people, so you're probably not the CEO of these companies. So, I'm assuming that. So, do you have what you need to go back and convince whoever you have to convince? Because that's your challenge, right?
Now, one of the things that I did when I was involved in the newsroom, we actually have to the newsroom, and I have the managers come in and I've got this person in, and we tour their facility as well, to really kind of change the mind of people to ask questions and answer questions. So if there's somebody, if there's a company that's interested in doing this, and you want to maybe invite them in to talk about it, I think that would be a good idea.
And if you're not sure who that would be, the senior consultant would be happy to suggest someone.
And that's how I found out. I mean, they are awesome.
And we are also happy to sit down with management, any level of management, you know, whether it be your senior level of management, and discuss telework. We have a lot of examples we can bring to the table. Obviously, we have a lot of people that have implemented in their organizations that would be happy to attend as well. But just know that that is part of the services that we can provide you, is presenting information on why they should implement telework, and of course we'll tailor it to the needs of your organization, whether that's reducing real estate needs or improving morale and productivity, or whatever the case may be. We will tailor that to your specific organization. So any other questions? Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have a number of employees that would like to have that information about what that could other states also do.
Well, Mike may be a better person to answer this question, but you know, we are funded within the state of Georgia. We just work within the state of Georgia, and that is part of what limits us with offering that website outside of the state. And we can see if we can find an organization in your area. There are some organizations similar to ours that offer similar websites, but not the exact larger commute website. Mike, do you have something you'd like to add to that?
We would like to talk with you and see if we can work something out. But we do have some restrictions since we use, you know, state dollars to build that system. We're somewhat restricted to do what we do just within the state.
Okay. Anything else? Mike, wasn't there something?
I was just going to mention our telemanager of the quarter award. what really makes these programs work is middle management. If they embrace telework and allow their workers to telework, and if they do a good job managing, it makes the program successful. So a couple of years ago, the Clean Air Campaign started our Telemanager of the Quarter Award. And basically, we allow teleworkers to nominate managers who have done a great job of both managing teleworkers, but also great jobs within their companies to help start the telework programs and make it be viable. And so from time to time, we go out and ask for nominations, and Georgia Telework Week is always a good time for us to do that. So just want to remind everybody, you can go to our website. We'll also make sure you get a link and an email as a follow-up to this. But we're open for nominations now for Telemanager of the Quarter. And we usually select 3 or 4 managers in Georgia and then go out and recognize them for what they've done in their companies in terms of enabling telework.
You can just nominate them by sending us an email at telework@cleanaircampaign.org, 100 words or less on why they should be nominated. All right. No more questions?
Actually, I do have one. Michelle, it sounds like you had an informal telework program before. What made you actually switch it to a formal one?
Well, in all honesty, what happened was, maybe 2 years ago, I had already started really thought about leaving it, thought about leaving, and went to my email and said, I'd like to implement these programs because I think that it would help save money for employees and also morale and all that. And then it turned out that we had a lot of people already doing it. So I kind of opened up the can of worms because we didn't really know what the security was around people logging in. Now, when you log in with the firewall and all that, but it wasn't really good enough. So we had our first steering committee meeting, and people in the room were kind of shocked at how many people I said were teleworking. No, yeah, they really are. And I'm working in client services at that time, and I can tell you, I'm online at 3 in the morning. They didn't know that. So not everybody didn't know, but the managers did. So I think what happened was we reined in the program. We made it official. We made everybody use RSA tokens. We made them sign a document. I think we just took what was already happening and made it official, and also opened it up to people that weren't teleworking. Like we have a large QA or quality assurance department, and we have, I believe, everyone but people now. So it's been a good thing. It's kind of shown our security issues. I'm still not quite sure that we have that many, but we've locked them down.
If I could add to that, teleworking is a little bit like a grassroots after you get started. It is important membership. And when you really want to take it throughout the company, you need some structure. We have done the same thing. We still got back up on the chairs for people to telework. For the first 20 years, we didn't do that. So now we've had 1,000 people about legacy homeschool people that don't have their own on the chair. They sit there, they're happy, they don't complain, leave them alone. But, but eventually, when it gets bigger, it's that, you have to have a structure and some policy. We have go online and sign up with a food, there's all the things that if we really want to get the full benefit of the new people to camp, you got to have structure, and we've gone from, full to push. Now we've promoted, we have webinars, and we've created some little vignettes and trying to get through so Clean Air can use some of ours where teleworkers get a 5-minute skill of why teleworking is so great. We've got a whole bunch of people doing that. We've got on our website so people get to know it, people to see. So to really get the full benefit, it's got to be a thing.
And we have noticed, or we've learned that organizations that do formalize their programs have much more efficient programs, much more effective and productive programs, and it's just to put those rules and structures and a policy around it, it really does make it an overall better program for the organization. and they get a lot more out of it. Because really, in actuality, if your organization does not have a formal telework program, most likely there is informal telework going on. In fact, I don't think I've ever walked into a company to talk about telework and they did not have informal teleworkers. And sometimes they are shocked to find out, the people that we're meeting with, and we start talking to different managers in different departments, and we find that 70% of their departments already working from home. So it helps protect the company as well to have this role there. Anything? Yes.
Talked about space a little while ago, so I hear a lot of telework, and they're also asking the team about training, staffing, whatever. Working in different offices, different home space. Understanding space of people that aren't in the office as well as in the field.
We do, and we have, I heard from the mission public, bench seating and all these are the new comes. But we do have bench seating, we have hotel seating. Bench seating is very small. I mean, as part of this is what we've also done through part of the real estate is in the new world, space is real. You don't have a big, you don't have a common. It's the new space that's kind of going through most modern companies. We are taking cubes down to standard cubes of 6x6. So not only do people telework, they also, when they're in the office, they have less space. We're putting another some office boards, television, collaborative space, next to the space. We'll give them space to them.
That's on our plan for sure. We don't have hotels yet. Space is an issue, which is one of the reasons why we don't have it yet. But as we continue to work from home, the plan is to have an area where they'll have real spaces where they just plug in and come in.
And the Wi-Fi is a big thing now. You want Wi-Fi throughout the location, so when they come in with the laptops or the iPads or the Windows work, so we're in the process of rolling Wi-Fi out to all our facilities. Come in, you've got a space and you have it really is it's kind of revolutionary. I've been in the business office for a long time. What you can do today with Wi-Fi and wireless is really don't ever need to go out. I can even what you do is what we call them on the map and some kind of thing
FaceTime, right?
Yeah. So I mean, you're using somewhat personal with businesses. What I've been not really taking advantage of that. Someday we'll be sitting in the politics with all of that and we'll all be at home.
So this question is more for you, Erin. Do you have a large repository of sample language we can utilize for policies and agreements and toolkits and?
Yes, we certainly do. We have sample policies, agreements, we have case studies, we have sample teleworker, telemanager surveys, we have home office safety checklists. Really, we have a plethora of tools that are available to you, and it's whatever you need. And, of course, we can come in one-on-one and help you determine what all you need and provide you this information for you to utilize.
What about benchmarking data for other large companies in the metro area?
Well, we have information that we can provide on other companies, challenges, how they've overcome them, statistics from today, and we can also help you by conducting focus groups. Generally recommend doing focus groups after a pilot period, and we will come in and conduct those with teleworkers and with the telemanagers, and we will provide you a report afterwards and provide you recommendations on how you can improve the program and let you know what is already very successful with your program. We can also survey the teleworkers after a period of time and the managers. In fact, the numbers that were presented earlier by Elham, those are results of our typical survey that we do with employers after the telework program has launched.
And that data was from the last couple of years. Every couple of years we do that. And so we have several sets of those summary of findings, benchmark data from employers in the metro area. And you're welcome to all that.
Okay. I believe everyone has an evaluation form. If you would complete that before you leave. And any questions that you come up with, please feel free to contact us. Once again, can you help me with a round of applause to thank our panelists? We really appreciate you taking the time to join us down here and share with us your wealth of knowledge regarding telework. And thank you very much for attending today. I hope to see a lot of your faces soon.